After years of legal wrangling, millions of euro in legal fees, the disappointment and the elation of different court cases, both the High Court and the Supreme Court, has led to today, where the owners of Lissadell House here behind me, Edward Walsh and Constance Cassidy, have announced it is to at last reopen to the public. And so it's good news here in North Sligo. At an earlier press conference, the owners of Lissadell, Eddie and Constance, had this to say.
And I just say, first of all, to thank you all very, very much for coming here today. It's always difficult on any day, but particularly on a weekend when all of you have probably other things and other commitments, but we're delighted to have so many here today. I'd like to welcome John Perry, our Minister. I'd like to welcome each and every person who's here. Many of you we've met before over the years. And I'm here today in circumstances where at one stage it was difficult to believe that we would be here doing an announcement like this, and doing an announcement like this so soon after what's been a very difficult number of years and a very, very difficult court case. For us, the last 5 years in Lissadell have been traumatic, they've been difficult and they've been challenging. But Lissadell is such a wonderful place. It's a place of true mystique, it's a place of true beauty, and it's a place which each of us have grown to love and to have missed very considerably over the years when, certainly from my perspective, I was away. In terms of being here, when we began in 2003, we had a vision for what we felt Lissadell should be. And we set about trying to restore and respect the culture, the tradition, the integrity of Lissadell. We worked slowly in focusing initially on the house. We began on the kitchen garden. We then started on the alpine garden. We then started on the coach house. From starting on the coach house to dealing with removal of slurry, silage and all of the other detritus that was there, we started to re-roof. We then started to, one project led to another. We began galleries, all of which we did with a view to believing that Lissadell had the potential to be the jewel in the crown of tourism in the Northwest, and even not so much even only in the Northwest, but in Connacht and indeed in Ireland. Lissadell, in the few years when it was operating, had achieved a status both nationally and internationally and was becoming increasingly a destination of choice for so many. The culmination of all those works and efforts led to the Leonard Cohen and the Westlife concerts. And whilst having Westlife here in their hometown was an incredible achievement, I have to say that for all of us, I think, having Leonard Cohen play over 2 magical nights was something very, very special, and arising from which there were offers from many, many other artists who looked at the idea of playing in Lissadell and looked at it as a destination of choice. All of that, sadly, came to nothing when the High Court was lost. And at that point in time, for us, it appeared that our vision was over. It was a truly devastating time. Fortunately, we made the decision, and it was a difficult decision, but we made a decision because we believed that the decision of the High Court was fundamentally wrong and flawed in so many respects, both in fact and in law. And acting on the advice that we had received from lawyers, because one never advises oneself, but we had what we believe was the best panel of lawyers available to us, we decided that it was worthwhile to pursue an appeal to the Supreme Court. Not only was it worthwhile, but we felt Lissadell deserved that we try everything with a view to trying to save Lissadell. Unfortunately, the decision to proceed with an appeal was vindicated by the outcome in the Supreme Court. All of that's been a difficult time, but all of that is now, we hope, in the past. And we look forward to trying to move forward in a positive note. It hasn't been easy, And as my daughter Eleanor said in the aftermath of the Supreme Court, we need to take time out, and that we did. We didn't actually believe that we would be making a decision so soon, but there were a number of factors, and I think it's important to list them. First of all, each of the children themselves repeatedly encouraged us to renew our vision for Lissadell. They themselves have grown up in Lissadell. They lost the last number of years, but they love Lissadell and wanted to be involved and encouraged us to have faith and to move forward. There were two fabulous articles. I've said it already to Paddy. Paddy's article that was published in the Mirror, only on the digital, unfortunately, because I'd have liked it to have been full front page on every single media, and the Eugene McGlowan in Sligo Today. They both struck a chord, and I read them and reread them and looked at it and saw that there was a level of support out there. The enormous number of messages of goodwill, of encouragement from many, many people, both in Sligo, from here in Maharal, from all over Ireland and from abroad, all saying how relieved they were at the decision and how much they hoped that we would try to renew the dream, renew the vision. All of that impacted. The 5 years were a bleak enough time. The 5 years were difficult. And it's important in going forward that going forward you know you're making the right decision for your family, the right decision for Lissadell, the right decision for Sligo.
Also at the press conference was Minister of State John Perry TD. This is what he had to say about the future of Lissadell.
On behalf of the Irish Government, I want to say a very big thank you to you, Edward, and Constance, and your extraordinary family. The Taoiseach has asked me to tell you that he is looking forward to be here with us on Friday to formally open Lissadell, which I'm so pleased about. I want to thank you, Edward and Constance, indeed for having me here today at this very privileged occasion to announce this major reopening of Lissadell, and to thank you and your family for your forbearance, your determination, your resilience and belief. And it is certainly here evident that the wonderful family and extended family, that it is a real family home, a real historical place, and that I'm certain the future for Lissadell, and indeed for this region with the reopened Lissadell, will be immense. Thank you.
After the press conference, I caught up with Eddie and Constance and their eldest daughter, Eleanor. We discussed what has happened at Lissadell and what the future holds for the house. So a wonderful afternoon, great announcement. Can I ask you, with regard to your children, they lost out on 5 of their most formative years while they could have been living here in the heart of what is quintessential Sligo, heritage, culture. How do you feel about that?
I think I feel quite sad because the kids adored Lissadell. For them, it was always enjoyment, even with the idea of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning in Naas, being dragged down to Sligo. Once they were here, they were able to run wild, run free, help out and enjoy and really appreciate, I suppose, part of the heritage and the tradition of Sligo. But the best person to probably answer that is Eleanor.
Yeah, it was not a very nice 5 years, particularly for the younger kids who didn't really get a chance to grow up with it. But we're just really happy that we have a chance to start again this summer.
It was because of Eleanor that we managed to persuade Eddie, Daddy, to come back. Because when we won in the Supreme Court in November, we thought we'd come down before Christmas, but we didn't. Then January went and February went, and then eventually Eleanor went up to Eddie and said, come on, we have to go down to Lissadell again. So we came down to Lissadell, and it's been really happy since. As you can see, there's a great atmosphere. It's very much a family home. And we're here all the time. A lot of the older children drive, so they come down with their friends. Of course, they expect me to clean up after them, but I suppose that's every mammy has to put up with that.
Eleanor, your heart must have been in your mouth when you were in the Supreme Court that day. You came out, you were joyous, you just looked as if you just won the World Cup. How did you feel? Really?
Yeah, we were very happy, but we were confident the whole way through. My heart was in my mouth, but we knew that we were right. So
one of the most abiding memories I have myself of Lissadell here was the concerts, the Leonard Cohen,
absolutely magical.
Westlife. I'd never seen Westlife before, and we all live in Sligo here. But any news on that front? Will that be happening again?
We have ambitions. We'd like to work because the Leonard Cohen concerts were just magical. And you'd like to think, and I've no reason to believe that it can happen, but we are going to try that bringing back Leonard in 2015 with the 150th anniversary of Yeats could be a great tribute to Yeats, a great tribute to Sligo, and an even bigger tribute to Cohen himself. So we are going to explore it. We're going to work hard. And it brings huge business for the area. It's not just that Lissadell, because the concert itself runs so much expense, but it's the knock-on effect. There wasn't a hotel room available within 40 miles of Sligo when Cohen played. That's the type of thing you need to see for business in Sligo.
Very much so. Looking at the, on the other side of it, we have a new person in charge of the county now, a new CEO, Kieran Hayes. Kieran has said publicly in a meeting and told Sligo today, only 2 days ago, that if you were putting on concerts, he was so amenable to give you every assistance that he possibly could, subject to the normal planning of that. Does that feel like a breath of fresh air?
Well, it certainly does, yeah. I'm glad to see positivity because we have written to the Mr. Hayes, and we've had a reply from him in which he's indicated he wants to be positive and move things forward. We've replied to him and we're in the course of correspondence, and we are hopeful that things will move on a new note and on a positive note, and we've assured him that positivity meets positivity.
The light of evening, Lissadell. Great windows open to the south. Two girls in silk kimonos, both beautiful, one a gazelle. Hopefully we'll have announcements soon about concerts and great stars coming to light up this whole arena again for the people of Sligo. For the tourism side, it's going to be great, and for the people in the outlying areas around Lissadell, like Carney, people who have invested heavily in their businesses, in their B&Bs, in their restaurants, it's time again for them to prosper. We'll be back here on Friday with the Taoiseach, and until then, this is Kieran McCarthy for Sligo Today, here at Lissadell.